Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Carol, coming to you from North Devon, and today I'm going to talk about some of my old body of work. It was back in early 2000 or even the late 90s. I was really fascinated by the technique of fresco. This is where the artist would mix pigment into wet plaster and then actually paint that wet plaster onto the walls and make a sort of permanent painting in the walls. It was very popular in early medieval times in this country, in the churches, and also in Italy is where I saw it as well. Giotto, some fabulous work that he did in Padua and Florence. But even before I saw all that, I'd got books out of the library and I was fascinated by the textures. And obviously when they were first done, they were really vibrant colours and beautiful. But if we look at them now, they are they're worn. Most of the pictures are missing, where the plaster's peeled off, or maybe in the Reformation they were whitewashed over to cover them up. I think I've got a postcard of one in this country. Just bear with me. This was a photograph that I took from inside a church. Unfortunately, I can't remember which church it was. You can see the colours are really bright because the pigment doesn't change because it's locked into the plaster. So that had been restored and reclaimed, I think. Here is a postcard that I got from Winchester Cathedral. So you can see all these areas where it's been damaged. So the plaster's come away, or it's just been damaged. So this is the effect that really fascinates me. Anyway, so when I was initially interested in this fresco and the beautiful texture that it created, that we were left with in the modern day, I decided that I wanted to try and recreate this effect using textiles, embroidery. I was just fascinated by the idea of things changing over time, and revealing the layers underneath, trying to discern what the original picture would have been and things like that. Just the whole textural and visual interest. I really wanted to recreate that with textiles. So, and bearing in mind this was sort of pre-computer, so I couldn't get anything off the internet, any ideas. I just had some library books that I would look at. And so I'm going to show you now some of the works that I did. So I hope you enjoy this little tour. This was the first piece that I did. I'll get up close to it. It's mainly pre-felt and silk paper. I got some of this. I got the ideas of the shapes from churches that I'd visited and that I'd found in the stonework. And I made all these shapes with plasticine, and then I put the wet silk paper over them until it dried, and it dried in those shapes. I mean, obviously fresco is two-dimensional and this is three-dimensional, but that's how I wanted it to be different in textiles. And then once it was dry, I did machine embroidery and hand embroidery around the shapes. This here is like a sort of soft pre-felt. But here I just kept to the plain plaster, original plaster colour. So then I moved on from that idea and I decided to introduce colour into the overall textural interest. So this here I used a trapanto technique of making a channel for the thicker wool to go underneath. This was some more silk felt. This was all pre-felt. And again here I shaped it with the wet silk paper over the plasticine. And I put this blue fabric behind it to give an idea of the plaster wool showing through where it had been sort of damaged over time. So that was that piece. And in this piece, I did a completely different technique. The whole thing was felt and pre-felt. So I basically pre-felted all these shapes and then I assembled it and then felted so that it all merged into one. There's no difference here, it's all one fabric, and then I embroidered over it. This is almost in two halves. It's meant to represent someone who has an outward show of everything, but this is the inner person that's hidden. And also it's sort of, this is more damaged than this side, is the idea. I got this idea from Byzantine frescoes. So you've got an idea of all the Byzantine clothes that they were wearing. So that was the final piece. After that time, I did my BTEC in art design. I went to university and did a degree in English literature and history of art. And in my second year, I went to Florence, and we also went to Padua and Venice, and I saw all these frescoes that I'd been seeing in books. I saw them firsthand for the first time, and I was absolutely blown away. They're so beautiful, stunning, and it's always been in my head that I'm still really attracted to that style of art, and I sort of always want to interpret it in my own way. This is a recent junk journal that I made. This is the Fresco junk journal that I made recently. I did a distressed cover. And this is actually taken from my artwork that I just showed you. And I just used all the papers that made me think of distressed plasterwork. I've yet to use it, as you can see. But it is quite... This is a book that I got from a charity shop recently. I did have to pay more for it than you would normally, but it was just too amazing not to get. The Great Age of Fresco. It's stunning. Some ideas in it from the point of view of the distressing. You see that? And this one. You can see where I was coming from with the face, can't you? And this I remember seeing in the monastery. All the pure, all the different whites, and so beautiful with the plaster work. Yes, so with that in mind, I sort of want to get back into my fresco. So what I've done is I want to start doing some art prompts that are about fresco. So I've culled my Jamie's Italy book that I've had on my shelf for quite a while, and I haven't made anything from it. It's very, you know, in some books that they're beautiful and you watch the series and it's lovely, but when it comes down to it, they're not meals that you're ever going to cook. So I've culled it. This is how many pages are left in it. But you can see why I chose it, because I can still use aspects of it, because I've got that Italian fresco look to it. And I've also got lots of pages that I can use in my collage for inspiration. Just that blue sheet, it's lovely for collage. And there, like a textured wall shape page. So I'm going to be having fun with that. So what I will do is I will show you how I'm getting on with that. So that's another one of my projects that's going to be sort of on the back burner. So I'll let you know how I'm getting on. Anyway, I hope you're all keeping well. And thank you for asking about the cat, Maisie. I've put a little clip in of her at the end, just because she said hello to me as I was coming to the end of the filming. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've found out something today, and I hope you're keen to join me on my fresco journey. I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye. You all right, Maisie? Obviously.